It stands. I'm Mark Goldbridge, and this is your latest Manchester United transfer news. And have we got some big developments for you today? Fasten your seatbelts, loads to get into. England play today as well, but let's forget about the Euros and think about Manchester United because there is lots to discuss. It's going to be a big week, but probably not this week. I'll tell you why in a moment. But lots and lots to get into. We're going to start off with Zirkzee, but we've got a very interesting development around Branthwaite. We're also going to be talking about a potential move for Morata. Mason Greenwood, what's going on there? Casemiro, a hijack of a Chelsea transfer, and a few bits about Rude as well. But let's just hit this story straight away. Corriere dello Sport have come out saying that there are people around Zirkzee that are now saying he may well stay at Bologna for another year. Bologna are in the Champions League, and there are some, and we spoke about this last week. One of the Dutch coaches said that it would probably be better for Zirkzee to stay where he is for another year because his development isn't complete. Well, could that now be a scenario where Zirkzee decides to stay at Bologna? Look, I think with Zirkzee, interesting update about Branthwaite to give you. Everton have just bought a player, and what I was told last night from somebody I trust is that this deal is going to happen with Manchester United. You know, all this walk away nonsense, it won't happen. But we'll talk about what I've been told, what we know about Branthwaite in a moment. I think with Zirkzee, this has the potential to run into next week anyway. That release clause doesn't hit until July the 1st. And it certainly feels like when a player is in a position of power and they have options, they sometimes take their time to do that. And we must not forget that Bologna are a decent team. They had a very good season in Serie A last year. And though Motta has left for Juventus, they still will be in the Champions League. And Zirkzee would be a key player for them. Is he going to lose anything by staying for another year? Well, I think it's interesting in the sense that if he was going to stay at Bologna, why is it only just coming out now? You know, he was very happy to go to AC Milan. Manchester United have moved in, and he's now going to stay at Bologna. I don't see it. I don't see it at all. I think that, again, we know the 5 principles of transfers on the United Stand community, don't we? It's bullshit. It's totally true. It's the club using Man United to generate interest. It's the agent using Manchester United to generate interest. Or it's the agent using Manchester United to get a new contract. And I think on this one, we already know that the agent fees have caused a problem and probably prevented a deal being done with AC Milan sooner. That has opened the door for Manchester United. The AC Milan deal for Zirkzee has stalled because of the agent wanting ridiculous money. We're now hearing that he might stay at Bologna, and I just think I see that for what it is. It's we want a little bit more money out of AC Milan or Man United, or we're going to maybe stay at Bologna for another year and look at our options. I think that unfortunately, this is the world of transfers, and you either like it, enjoy it, put up with it, whatever, but we can't sit there and say we've benefited from an agent that sort of stalled the Milan deal because he wants too much money, and then sit there and moan about a story that he might stay at Bologna because, hey, guess what? The agent might want more money. And I think that's probably what it is. I think that, you know, Man United and AC Milan are fighting to get Zirkzee. And the agent has probably said, you know what, if you don't pay up, he might stay at Bologna for another year and he'll have a good year, and then there'll be more clubs after him next year, and, you know, you might miss out because it might be a Madrid, it might be a Barcelona, it might be a Man City. So, you know, pay me that extra now and get him, or you might have to wait a year and then still miss out. And that's how it works. So I don't think he's staying at Bologna. I think this is something that he you know, you don't go through conversations with Milan and Manchester United and then go, I might stay where I am. Obviously he wants to move. Obviously they want to cash in, and I suspect that to happen, to be honest with you. A lot of people talking about Rude. I want to give you this big update on Branthwaite, but a lot of people talking about Ruud van Nistelrooy. I just want to say 3 things about Ruud van Nistelrooy and why I think this is a big deal for Manchester United, and it's not about sentimentality. So Ruud van Nistelrooy is, by all accounts, going to be joining Manchester United. He's going to reject the opportunity to manage Burnley, and he will join Manchester United as an assistant coach. What that means for McLaren and Van der Gaag, I don't know. They might both stay, they might both leave, I don't know. But Van Nistelrooy coming in is absolutely brilliant. And there are 3 factors to this deal that make it even more exciting. 1, Erik ten Hag has stated that he wants this to happen as part of his contract. Now, some would say, why is that? But Erik ten Hag wanted Van Persie 2 years ago. He wanted Van Persie, and I can't remember why he couldn't do it, but he wanted Van Persie to come in. Ex-player, Dutch, knows the club, been successful. He wanted Van Persie. It didn't happen. So 2 years later, wanting Van Nistelrooy, I'm not surprised that Ten Hag wants that. Some people have said, why would Erik want it? Well, it's not out of the ordinary for Ten Hag, and apparently that's part of his contract negotiations that he wants Van Nistelrooy bringing in. Why would he want him in? Because I think that Ten Hag has a vision on how he wants to do things, and the younger players do it, whether it's Mainu, Garnacho, Rasmus, but some of the older players haven't done it. And I think some of the older players haven't done it because I've played the game. You know, they're like, you know, who are you? There's that sort of mistrust or whatever. Whereas if you bring Van Nistelrooy in, he's done more than anybody in that dressing room's ever done in a Manchester United shirt. So it's shut up and sit down to the other players. And I think it's brilliant coaching from Ten Hag to do that, because Van der Geek can't do that and McLaren can't do that. But Van Nistelrooy comes in and automatically demands respect from that dressing room. I'm not saying it's like what Zidane did for Madrid, but in a way it is. You've got an ex-player of that club who walks into the dressing room, and, you know, if Bruno or Rashford or any other big personality tries to play it on, you just go, hold on a minute. I played under Sir Alex, I won titles, I scored goals, I know what this club's all about. You either listen to me, but don't fucking argue with me and tell me you know more about this football club and how to be successful. And I think that sort of thing, alongside a coach, is really, really important. And I think the third thing for me is, the second thing sort of feeds on from that. Yeah, we bring Van Nistelrooy in. He ain't just some coach from the Netherlands. He is an ex-Manchester United player. And those of us who lived the time of Van Nistelrooy, he was a bit unlucky that Thierry Henry was playing for Arsenal at the time, because there was no comparison. Henry was better. But if Henry had not been around at that time, he was head and shoulders the best striker in the league by a very, very long way. He was a brilliant player for us. And, you know, it ended a little bit badly, admittedly, but, you know, Sir Alex and him have ironed those problems out. He'd be a massive influence in the dressing room. And he's the most successful player in that dressing room the minute he walks in a Man United shirt. So massive, massive influence in that way, in something that Ten Hag or a Mourinho can't do that. They can't do that. So it's a very clever move to bring him in. The third thing is, as well, not many have said this, what an impact he's going to have on somebody like Garnacho, or more importantly, Rasmus. Like Rasmus and maybe Zirkzee, whoever comes in, what he's proven himself at PSV as a coach. He's got the experience. He's played the game at Man United in the Champions League. He's played for Holland. He's played for Real Madrid. He knows what it is to be a striker, and he knows what it is to play for big clubs. But also, as a mentor, and no disrespect to Benny McCarthy, who probably will leave, as a mentor for people like Rasmus and then the other striker that's coming in, and not just the strikers, you know, it works the same for any young player, whether it's Mainu or whatever. What a role model to have. Like, he is an amazing role model. So I think it's a great idea. Will he be the striker coach, says Renault? I don't think he's coming in as the striker coach. No, I think he's coming in as a coach. But he was a proper deadly number 9, says WA5. And no, I think it's a very, very intelligent move. Jack Stockdale says, Ruud and Højlund, it will transform his game. Look, you give Rasmus and Zirkzee, if he comes to United, to Thierry Henry or Ronaldo or Messi or Van Nistelrooy or R9 or even, you know, these are top strikers. Some are better than others, but, you know, Ruud Van Nistelrooy of his time was one of the best strikers in the world at that time. So that's what you're bringing in, plus the pedigree of actually he can coach, you know, his ideologies. He's got a great relationship with Branthwaite as well, because Branthwaite was at PSV. I mean, many people are saying that Ruud Van Nistelrooy could be the key to Branthwaite coming to Manchester United as well, because they've got a relationship from when Branthwaite was there on loan, and Ruud really likes him. But Ineos really like Branthwaite. Ten Hag really likes Branthwaite, and I think Branthwaite was coming to Manchester United anyway. But there's so many positives to this, and I was having this chat with Will last night when we were doing the watch-along for the Italy-Croatia game. And he was like, why would you turn down Burnley over Man United? And I'm like, there's multiple reasons why this is a great deal for both. And it's a real coup from Manchester United. A real scoop, sorry. It's a real, real positive deal. I'm very excited about it. And I think it would be a real positive. Reasons was my favourite striker of all time. The guy's mentality is ruthless. He lived for goals. What can he teach our forwards in invaluables, says Steg. I think the thing that stood out for me for Reasons Van Nistelrooy as a player, and I know a lot of you won't be old enough to remember him, he was really selfish, like really, really selfish, in a way that was beneficial for the team. But I like that in a striker. You think about all the top strikers, whether it's Shearer, Harry Kane, Thierry Henry, Cristiano Ronaldo, Lewandowski, and Van Nistelrooy was the same. That ruthless dedication to his craft. And he will teach Rasmus stuff. He will teach Zirkzee stuff. Rashford as well, hopefully. Yeah, I think he's an amazing addition to the team, and hopefully we can announce that soon. Hi, Mark. Love the content and show. Keep up the amazing work. When is Rude starting? Well, he's not been announced yet, Carmine, but I would expect United will get that done in the next few days. United have needed a coaching overhaul as much as a squad overhaul. Getting Rude in is a big step forward to changing things for the better, says Patrick. And also, look, forget Reasons Van Nistelrooy for a moment. We need to also just address this before we talk about the transfers again. When you get a new manager at a club, we brought Rangnick in and gave him nobody in them 6 months. He had to work with Ollie's coaches. When Ten Hag came in, he brought in 3 or 4 people. If you go to Carrington, there's probably 50, 60, 70. Couldn't even count how many people work on training for Manchester United. I don't know. Take a guess. It could be 30, it could be 80. I don't know. It's a lot of people. Ten Hag probably brought in 5 people. Mourinho, I don't think he brought in that many. A lot of the people we've got at this club have been here for years and years and years. So why are people getting their knickers in a twist about Van Nistelrooy? We actually are right. Patrick is right. We need to bring in a lot more people. Like, if you think about Pochettino brings 5 or 6 people with him everywhere he goes. Ten Hag's not had the opportunity to do that. And I think this is something that Sir Jim Radcliffe is talking about as well. It's not just about players. It's not just about the board. Ten Hag might be working with a fitness coach that's been... In fact, I did this a few weeks ago. We were talking about injuries. The fitness and conditioning people, one of them's been here for 10 years, and I think the other 2 were appointed in the Ollie era. Well, what has that got to do with Ten Hag, who's got a completely different style of football to 10 years ago, and Ollie? So we've got coaches that don't even fit the style of football that we want. So there's loads that needs to be done about that. I bet he can't wait to say hello to the Arsenal fans at the Emirates, says Ginger Red. Thank you very much, pal. Welcome to the Members Club, Ant. You're an absolute legend. Thanks for getting your badge in. So, Branthwaite. So much to get into on the show this morning. Nice to be in the Coldbridge Arms yesterday, though, wasn't it? Make sure you smash the like and subscribe. Let me talk to you about Branthwaite. So, bit of breaking news. Everton have signed a player. Is it India or someone like that? Anyway, Everton have signed a player. Fabrizio was announced it this morning. 18.5 million euros, so about 15 million pounds. Some people have got very excited about this because they're like, if Everton are signing players, competing for a player that apparently 2 other clubs in the Premier League wanted. I can't remember who it was. I think one was Newcastle and the other one may have been somebody else. But anyway, Everton have signed that player. Now, signing a player for Everton before June the 30th has got people going, well, surely the Branthwaite deal is going to happen before June the 30th because where are Everton spending money from when they've got PSR and FFP concerns before the 30th of June? They have just sold a player as well. That Dobbin guy's gone to Villa. So, and also a £15 million deal. They might be spreading it out over 5 years. So, it might be 2.5 million or whatever, 3 million. So, I don't necessarily think that automatically feeds into the fact that we're going to get a deal done with Branthwaite. But I would put Branthwaite, and people are going to get panicky here, in relation to who I was talking to last night. Well, I say last night, it was about 5 o'clock. I would put the Branthwaite deal into the 90% club. Now, I don't want to jinx this because, Everton, you never know. But Everton's plan this summer is to do a deal with Manchester United for Branthwaite. That is part of their strategy as what they are looking to do. They see Branthwaite as a really important player, but he's also a very valuable player that will allow them to sell and buy 2 or 3 other players, which is what they're looking to do. Everton are coming back from 3 relegation battles in the last 3 years, And they need to be a team that wants to be away from all that and around the middle of the table and moving up the league under Sean Dyche. To do that, bringing some money in has to happen, because otherwise they don't have much of a budget. So they are in a position where they're realistic that selling to buy is important. Now, if they can sell other players, maybe they won't do that. But Branthwaite is a player that they can get instant income from Manchester United. He wants to come to Manchester United, and Manchester United want to do a deal. All we're doing now is figuring out what the value is that doesn't make Everton feel like they've been mugged off and doesn't make Manchester United feel like they've been mugged off. And that's basically where we're at. And that's basically what I was told last night. This is just a PR exercise from both clubs. All this walking away isn't really on the table because everybody wants to do a deal. And, it was a really interesting conversation for me, because it was somebody who is in the industry, who's not a journalist, who was actually an agent. And they were saying, look, this is a transaction that goes on all the time. A transfer has got Everton fans, the media, Man United fans, and a load of other people looking at it. And when a transfer is going to take place, the first things you need to have the conversations that are going on is an agreement from Everton, Branthwaite, and Man United that a deal can be done. And there is that agreement. Everton have let Man United speak to Branthwaite to do the personal terms, which have been agreed by Branthwaite and Man United. So there is an open agreement from all three to do a deal. So all this walking away stuff doesn't actually make sense, because United have made a commitment to buying him. Branthwaite has made a decision he wants to go, and Everton have made a decision that they want to sell him. So all this walking away stuff doesn't actually make sense when all three are in agreement that there is a deal there to be done. What we have at the moment is posturing around getting the best deal for Everton and the best deal for Manchester United, and there will have to be a bit of give and take, and that's where we are at the moment. So based on that, I would put it in the 90% club that this deal will get done. When it will get done, don't ask me that. People guessing what the fee will be, you're having a laugh, because there's no way, Man United haven't put a second bid in yet, and there's no way that that's been agreed. I suspect this deal will get done for somewhere between 45 and 50 million pounds up front, with add-ons of about 10 to 15 million, depending on how low it is. But I think the overall package is going to be about 60 million pounds, and I think we'll pay about 45 to 50 up front, maybe a little bit less. But that's where we're at with it. So I wouldn't even start panicking about alternatives or walking away. I think that's, predominantly fan media talk, and Everton side as well. But what we have here is an agreement from Everton, Branthwaite, and Manchester United to do a deal. And whilst any deal can fall through, it's in everybody's benefits to do it now, because Everton know they want to do it, Branthwaite knows he wants to go, and Man United know they want Branthwaite. So, yeah, it will get done. I'm very, very confident about that. And I also think that the person I was speaking to yesterday would know a hell of a lot about how this deal is going to pan out based on their experience and what they know. Premier League are looking at what certain club transfers are doing, says Ben. Well, it's got no, I did read that. So Ben's talking about the Premier League, saying that they're monitoring these clubs that are doing inter-club deals to bypass FFP. We haven't done any of that, of course. We're not getting Branthwaite for a fiver, so there's nothing to do with us. I don't want Branthwaite, says Dayton. I do. I think, look, Ruud Van Nistelrooy will want him. Erik ten Hag wants him. Jason Wilcox wants him. Ineos want him. And Goldbridge wants him. No, I've got no part in it. No, the people that matter want him. And what I don't want is we don't get Branthwaite. We get Bremer. And then it goes wrong, and in a year's time, Ten Hag gets the sack, and we all sit here going, but he wanted Branthwaite. If managers are going to get sacked by Manchester United, let's give them the tools. And if they then fail, fine. But for too long, we've done this whole, let's get them plan C, and then let's sack them. No, let's get them plan A, and let's, I'm excited by a deal that everybody's in agreement with. Ineos, recruitment, Ten Hag. That, to me, is the way to go. And look, Stefan says Bremer's better, but you're not the manager. I'm not the manager. We're not the director of football. I want the club to do what they're in agreement collectively to do. And if they get it wrong, they get it wrong collectively. So, yeah, very, very excited to see what when that deal will get done. And it could happen before June the 30th, I suppose. But that's what I was going to say as well. I want to go through a few other transfer stories out there, especially this Chelsea Hijack deal. There's a player, plays for Salzburg, we've been linked to, and I can't find the story. I think I saw it on some aggregator website. Might have been the BBC, might have been MEN, could have been The Guardian. Garner Duth, he's plays for Salzburg. He's apparently 20. He's a midfielder. He's played 100 games already, apparently. If anyone wants to do a little bit quick research on him, we're going to just bring him into the show in a few minutes' time towards the end. But, yeah, in relation to... And I've played the game. I've done it before where I've said, this week's going to be the week for Manchester United. Honestly, realistically, if you want to know what I think is going to be the big week for Man United, it's next week. Look, we might do that Branthwaite deal. We might get the Zirkzee deal done, and we might finalise an outgoing, which I'll talk about in a minute. But I think next week's the big week for Manchester United. So specifically, the 1st of July, which is 1st of July is when's the 1st of July? Basically next Monday. Monday's the 2nd of July, isn't it? So next week is the week where I think, boom, shakalak, because that's the start of the football financial year. That's when contracts end. That's when I just think it's going to kick off. And Man United might be waiting till then for the next financial football year, but I think a lot of clubs are. A lot of contracts end. A lot of players are coming back for pre-season from holiday. I think next week is when it's going to go. And I know people might not want to hear that, but logically, I think that's when it's going to be. I think next week is the week where if you come out of next week and nothing's been done, I'd start to panic. I think that first week of July is where it will all go off, because the Christian Eriksen's are obviously at Euros, but Casemiro's on holiday, Mabry's on holiday, Sancho's on holiday, Donny van der Beek's on holiday, even people like Harry Maguire, who may or may not go on holiday. So there are a lot of people who'll be coming back next week who've had a bit of time to think. And it's not just about incomings, it's outgoings. So I think next week will be the one. Greenwood staying, says Johnny. Let me talk to you about Mason Greenwood. So... Dimarzio reported about Lazio. What's happening with Mason Greenwood is that he will be sold. He wants to go. Man United want to sell him. But more importantly, there's just loads of interest. And it's funny because if there was one club after Greenwood, I think that this deal could be done very, very, very quickly. Now, Muv has just said that Everton need to sell before Sunday to cope with PSR, says David Ornstein. I don't know where that's coming from, but I'll check that while I'm talking about Greenwood. If we had one or two clubs after Mason Greenwood, we would be able to get this deal done quick. But the issue that we have got is that there is actually quite a lot of clubs looking at Mason Greenwood, and therefore you've got to sift through more. It's logical, isn't it? If you're at work today and you've got 2 emails to do all morning, take your time, just prioritise, get them done. If you've got 15 to do, you're busy. And Man United, with Greenwood, have got a lot of inquiries, and they've got to cut through it all, figure out what's best for them, but then what's best for us might not be best for Greenwood. So it is taking a bit of time with Greenwood, just because there is 4 or 5 clubs that are genuinely expressing interest, and the issue might be that Greenwood has his heart set on a certain club. So Greenwood will happen, but it's taking a bit of time because of the options that are there. And also, United have been very close, and Greenwood have been very close to sort of finalising where they're going to put their efforts. Let's say Juventus. But then when that starts to happen, another club comes in and goes, well, we'll pay you this. So it's good because we should end up with a good deal for everybody, but there is a lot of interest in him. Barada starts next week as well, says Wool. I thought Barada didn't start until the middle of July, but I can't find this Ornstein thing. All I know is that Everton have surpassed their requirement to sell players. That's coming from Ornstein. Oh no, here we go. Everton still need to make a sale before Sunday to avoid any potential PSR breach, per David Ornstein. I don't necessarily think that means they do the Branthwaite deal. Look, I'm hopeful, and I think we will get the Branthwaite deal done. But honestly, based on the conversation I had last night, I'm very confident that we'll get that deal done. But my interpretation is that the requirement to get it done by the 30th of June is a bit of a red herring. Everton, Branthwaite, Man United all want to do a deal. But I don't think PSR deadlines are pushing Everton towards that deal. I think that if we don't do it by June the 30th, some people will say, well, that's it, we can't do a deal. I just think this is taking time. I always said the Branthwaite deal would go into July probably and be the hardest deal to do because there's no release clause, and Everton, like Leicester with Maguire, like Wan-Bissaka with Palace, I just think it will take time. I don't think June the 30th is going to have anything to do with the deal not happening. It might happen before then, but Everton could sell Calvert-Lewin, they could sell Onana, they could sell. They might just rush a deal so that they don't have to sell Branthwaite cheap. So I don't think that it'll happen before June the 30th. If it does, very happy. But I still think it will happen even if it hasn't happened by then. You said it's embarrassing if we don't get Zirkzee. We already got embarrassed when we tried to steal Tosin and he was for free. Also, Milan and United are both big clubs. Let's not be too harsh, says Ahmed. Thank you. Don't really have anything to add there apart from the fact that... I don't 100% believe that we went for Tosin. Friedman is miles better than Dan Ashworth. Why not go for him, Abdul says as well. Mark says, Tom, can we carry the 30 million from this transfer year into the new year? I don't know about that. He's talking about the financial fair play allowance, etc. I don't know whether you can carry it over. Thank you very much in relation to that. So Greenwood, very, very positive. There is a lot of clubs looking at Greenwood, and that's probably causing the delay. Let's talk about Chelsea, because a lot of you will know about Aaron Anselmino, centre-back, 19, playing for Boca Juniors. He's had a couple of mentions on this show before, but predominantly got mentioned yesterday. I don't know loads about him. Some of you will. Chelsea apparently want to do a deal for 15 million, but South American reports are saying that Manchester United have made a concrete expression of interest. Concrete's getting a lot of interest. It's a real shame we don't have popular concrete brands, because I tell you what, you'd make a killing in the transfer window, because I've never heard so much concrete be mentioned over the last couple of weeks. But apparently Man United have got a concrete interest in Aaron Anselmino, from Boca Juniors, who's a 19-year-old centre-back who would be available for around 15 to 20 million pounds. I don't know anything about him. I don't know, I don't know whether he's good or he's bad. Apparently Chelsea want to do the deal. Well, Chelsea want to do any deal. I mean, Chelsea are basically Control and Z, Control and V. Control and C, Control and V FC, aren't they? Copy and paste. I don't know. I don't know, but we have to bring it in a news show because it's out there from South American reports that Man United are looking to hijack the deal. Now, what I would say, and I'm allowed to give you my opinion, the 5 principles of transfers, I think this slots nicely into Lille with Lenny Oro. Let's use Man United, who want a centre-back, to get Chelsea to pay a little bit more money. Are we genuinely looking for this player? I don't think so. I think this is Chelsea going in for a player and Boca Juniors doing what they should do and saying Man United want him and we don't, and it just gets a little bit more money out of it. So I don't think we're in for him. As I said last night, I'd be very excited if we are, but I think it's just one of those stories that we're just being used for, really. Talking of which, I'll throw this in as a, there are always going to be stories that are shite. We got linked to Morata. I should have predicted this. I just can't be arsed. In previous windows, we would predict a player that will definitely get linked to us that we've got no chance of ever doing a deal for. And I think with Morata, we should have predicted this. He's been linked to us for about the last decade, and he's looking to leave Atletico Madrid, and he's playing in the Euros. So it's major tick, tick, tick. Morata to Man United is absolutely nailed on, and Ruthless says, I did predict it. It's bullshit. It's not going to happen, but fair play if you did predict it, Ruthless and everybody else, because it's absolutely nailed on that we would get linked to him. Playing in the Euros, Man United want a striker, and Atletico Madrid are looking to move him on. Morata, when we were genuinely linked to him the summer that we bought Lukaku, which we're talking probably 7 years ago, I would have been interested in Morata then. In fact, I think I wanted Morata over Lukaku, and Chelsea wanted Lukaku over Morata. And we ended up with Lukaku, and they ended up with Morata. At that time, I would have took him. But now, no. I mean, he's had more clubs than Tiger Woods for a start. And on top of that, as we were talking about yesterday, this is not the profile of player that Man United should buy. We should be buying Zirkzee, who would come to United in his early 20s and be playing for his second and third contract. There's a motivation there. If you bring Morata in, he's coming here for his last contract, maybe do a year and then do the MLS. It's just not the motivator, and he would be expensive. And we have to move away, as James messaged us about yesterday. Manchester United need to move away from these final contract expensive players, because Morata would come in and say, look at my career, I want 250 or 200 grand a week. But then he's already thinking, as soon as he signs that, well, you know, I'm off to the MLS in a year or two. So what's his motivation for contract 2? Whereas Zirkzee, you get him on a cheaper deal with the motivation that he's got his whole career ahead of him. He's playing for, you know, this is his big opportunity. So, yeah, exactly, Ferocious says. Is it not the same thing with Rabiot? It is. Of course it is. I'm not saying that Morata wouldn't be a good signing. We did it with Zlatan. We did it with Ronaldo. We did it with Cavani. You know, it can work. And I think Rabiot might be an option. But what I'm saying is, as much as some of those deals can work, I do agree with what James said to us, and what we've said is that ideally it's not really part of a long-term project, is it? So, but, you know, you can't always get what you want. I mean, ideally, you buy Zirkzee, you buy João Neves, you buy Branthwaite, you bring in Todibo, you bring in Frimpong, you bring in an Elise. All those players are going to be playing for second and third contracts. But we can't do it. Zirkzee, you know, Todibo can't happen. Elise's already gone. Neves is really expensive. So you can't always get what you want. So we might have to bring one in like that. Morata even had their red hair for us as well, says Steg. We've had some amazing summers, haven't we, where we haven't got players that we wanted to get, and yeah, it's been a journey, certainly. What about the Swedish player Victor Gyökeres from Sporting? I don't know whether I've pronounced his name right, Willie, but very, very, very expensive. It's a bit like Holmlund, the Danish player who scored against England. I think Man United really do like him, and we've certainly scouted him, but these Portuguese clubs have release clauses on players that are very, very, very unrealistic. It's always been problematic. They have ridiculous release clauses, and if they dig their feet in, you can't do a deal. So yeah, I don't foresee as being able to do that, and we need a left back as well, says Aravind as well. Yes, we do. Just on Casemiro as well, I know we had Fabrizio on yesterday and there was a lot spoken about. Check out that interview on the homepage, but there was also an update around Casemiro. Now, the interesting thing about Casemiro is that there's been a bit of conflicting information that Manchester United have, the move to Saudi Arabia. There were some reports last week that the move to Saudi Arabia had fallen through. That's not the case. Casemiro and Saudi Arabia can still happen, and Fabrizio has confirmed that it hasn't fallen through. Now, some people would say that Casemiro to Saudi Arabia is a bit of a confusing one because a lot of the teams out there have already got holding midfielders and they're looking at Kimmich. I don't know what's going to happen with Casemiro. I think logically he has to move because he had a very problematic end to the season that was very out of character. Yes, he was carrying injuries, but injury or not, he switched off. You know, the penalty against Coventry, not getting out against Arsenal, heading it back to Onana against Burnley, wasn't it? He had a very, very bad end to the season that I think damaged, you know, I'm a big Casemiro fan. And even I, at the end of the season, was like, that's it, it's done. So, and that, you know, there's people who aren't fans of Casemiro. So I just think staying at Man United is going to be very, very difficult for him. There are players in that squad, whether we like it or not, whether they like it or not, who aren't going to get an easy ride next season unless they hit the ground running. You know, Rashford's going to be one of those. Casemiro would be one of those. I think there's a few others as well. Like, you know, even someone like Scott McTominay, who it's just like we're part of something new now, and we don't want to see inconsistency or, you know, invisible performances or whatever. So I think Casemiro deciding to stay at Man United is one thing, and it's a possibility. But if he does do that, he's got to be one of the best holding midfielders in the league. And whether he can do that, I don't know. I think he could certainly do it in Italy, but no one's going to be able to afford him. So I think for Casemiro, because of the wages and transfer fee, it's almost like, in a European sense, it's a golden handcuffs, isn't it? Like, I detect with Casemiro that he may want to stay playing in Europe. But to do that, his only option is to stay at Manchester United, because he cannot go to another European club because no one else is going to pay him that contract or that wages. So it's Saudi or nowhere for Casemiro at the end of the day. Chris says, what's the chance of a live running transfer window scoreboard start at 0 and adjust accordingly as players come and go? What, like the hotometer, Chris? I don't know what you're talking about. It's the day of an England game and I'm not excited to Daniel. Well, I'm more excited about Man United, actually, to be fair. So I spoke to you about Morata, I spoke to you about Casemiro, I spoke to you about Greenwood, spoke to you about Branthwaite, spoke to you about next week probably being the key week. Zirkzee we gave you at the start. Yeah, who's this lad? Let me have a look. I don't even know if I can pronounce his name. Can anybody pronounce it? Plays for Salzburg. Lucas Gorner-Duath. Okay, so Man United have been linked to him. I don't really remember where it was from. 20 years of age, plays for Salzburg. He's already played over 100 games in his career. He plays under 21 for France, and he signed for Salzburg in 2022 on a 5-year contract for a 15 million euro, making him the most expensive signing in the history of Austrian football. Yeah, this is just really loose, isn't it? I mean, I imagine if we go and sign him now, but there's no news. I don't even know. I've just searched him up. There is no news on him at all. Like, weird. I feel like I've dreamt it or something. Like, he's barely got a profile. Anyway, Lucas Gorner-Duath. Or Doot, because he's French, maybe. 20, he's at Salzburg. And somewhere, someone's linked him to Manchester United. Holding midfielder. This is going to be the shortest story. 6'1". I mean, I don't know. I actually just do not know what that's all about. Maybe you dreamt it, Muv. Never heard of him, says Eddie. I read it somewhere. I've seen a vision, says Zemish. I definitely read it somewhere, but I don't know where. And I wrote it down. And the funny thing is, it was topic 2. And I know topic 1's rude. And I wrote that down last night. And I know I definitely wrote July 1st week, which was topic 4, last night. I don't know where this has come from. Yeah, I don't know. With Elise lost, do you think we'll abandon right wing, instead bring in Frimpong for Wan-Bissaka for creativity, says Duncan? I would love to see us do that. Would love to see us do that, Duncan. I'd love to see us sign Frimpong. I mean, here's a question for you. I haven't missed any super chats, Sam, at all. Homeland and Sporting is pronounced Yulman. Oh, I'm really, really gutted I missed that, Sam. Look, at the end of the day, Sam, if you're trying to teach me how to pronounce names, it's like taking the cape away from Batman. It's part of my mystery. I get names wrong. I'm not going to ever learn proper names. I'm just not going to do it. Whether people think that's ignorant or not, I will never, ever, ever be told by you or anybody else how to say a name that I will say how I want to say it. It's just part of the mystique. Just going back to the right back situation, the conversation that Chris said. Who would you? I'm really interested in this. who is the signing that gets you most excited this summer from who we've been linked to? Like, doesn't have to be the most valuable one, because I think Frimpong would be the deal that would probably be the deal that gets me the most excited. And I like the idea of Zirkzee, and I'd love to get João Neves, and I really do like Branthwaite, and I would love to have got Todibo. But Frimpong, for me, would be... We need a fullback who can be creative. We need a Trent. We need that Trippier. We need that sort of creativity from fullback. We need it. We've always had it. Evra, Neville, Irwin. You know, we've always had fullbacks traditionally that can create chances. And Frimpong, for me, would be, if we did it, one of the most exciting signings, because I just want us to have that wing capability. And the modern winger does invert. The modern winger cuts inside. But the fullback, although you do get inverted fullbacks, Frimpong really does like to put a cross in. So for me, I would love us to sign a player like that. A lot of people say Neves. To be fair, he would be a very exciting signing. Zirkzee's got 14 goals in 58 games for Bologna. No thanks, says Arctic. Frimpong feels quiet recently, says Robin. It might be because of the Euros, mate. You know, there are some players that you just can't do because of the Euros. What about Onana at Everton? Mate, honestly, Onana at Everton, I'm going to be completely honest, he wasn't even starting for Everton every game at the end in the last 2 months of the season. He terrifies me in a bad way. I do not think he is worth 40 million, let alone 50 or 60. I do not think he's worth it. And you know what? He played well for Belgium against Romania. But I've said this so many times. Who gives a shit? Like, who gives a shit? It's international football. You cannot scout players on international football. By all means, they can have a good game. You know, Kante played very well for France. Rabiot played very well for France. And, you know, hopefully Bellingham plays well tonight. But if someone plays well in a Euros game, it's the icing on the cake. There has to be a bloody cake. It can't be the cake. So you don't scout based on the Euros. If someone has a good game, they do have a genuinely good game, but they've got to have done it below that consistently. That's where, if you're buying a player for Man United, you're scouting them based on what they've done for their club. The icing on the cake is what they do in the Euros. And I don't rate that Onana. I don't rate him. From what I've seen in the Premier League, if he was available for 20 million, fine, let's have a punt. But, you know, Everton want a premium. They want 50, 60 million for him, and I just don't think it's the right deal. That doesn't mean that Manchester United won't do it. They might do it, but for me, he worries me. I would be going for Zubimendi or Edison from Atalanta before I went for Onana. Fully agree, and I want Frimpong too, but do you worry that football may head towards 4 centre-back-like defenders like City, says Brandon? No, I don't, Brandon, because Kyle Walker's not a centre-back, and I don't really think Pep wants to play Vardiel at left-back. I just think Vardiel can do a job there. I think we're more moving towards 2 centre-backs and inverted wingers who become part of your midfield, really. Yeah. So no, I don't think we're heading towards that. Junior says, facts, Mark. History tells us to not read too much into 1 or 2 games in a tournament in isolated games. Best to look at the overall portfolio. Yeah, it's dangerous to... I love the World Cup and I love the Euros and it's been great. But I don't really look at players who are mediocre or new in the Euros and go, ooh, who's that? I tend to be more impressed by players I know about who do well, like, because it's what you... International football is just so different, and it's a bubble as well. You know, getting up for playing 2 or 3 games for your country in a major tournament. I mean, what's Manchester United's biggest issue? Consistency, mentality. Well, It's very easy to get yourself up for a major tournament that everybody's watching for a month. But can you do it on a cold, windy night at Stoke away in the League Cup in November? You know, and that's the thing. These players... Look, Elise didn't even play in the Euros. Would you take Elise or somebody who's a good winger in the Euros? I'll take Elise because he's proven it in the Premier League week in, week out. And that's where your scouting predominantly needs to be. What are they doing for their club teams? That's what it's all about. And it's very rare that you can pick up a player in the Euros or the World Cup that will be successful. I mean, we've tried it. Cleverson, Jemba, Poborski. There's been many a Man United major tournament mistake in the past. I mean, to be fair, after the 94 World Cup, that was when the influx of foreign players into the Premier League occurred. And most of those were players that had done well in the World Cup. I think Zola was part of the Italian team, although I think he got sent off. Klinsmann, Petrescu, Dimitrescu, Popescu. There was a few players that came in off the back of the 94 World Cup. And for a few years, 96 Euros, it happened again. There was a few tournaments where the Premier League would use these major tournaments to recruit players. And it went on for a few years. I mean, Liverpool did it after the 2002 World Cup. Was that when they got Juve and somebody else? So it was a way to recruit. And the Premier League used to do it quite a lot. But it was a mistake. And not many clubs do it now. Which outgoing excites you the most, says Methane. If I speak. What, realistic or like... Honestly, there's a player we could sell that would basically be a huge sacrificial lamb that would send the biggest statement Ineos could ever send, and it would reset the football club. In fact, there's 3 they could do that for. They're not going to do it, so it's wrong to mention names. But if Ineos want to go to the fan base, this is business. We mean business. We're not messing about. None of the mistakes of the past. We are clearing the decks. I would love to see that happen because I just think the message would be mind-blowing. But realistic exits. Look, Sancho needs to go. Greenwood will go. There's nobody that's going to go that I go, ooh, yeah, that's my favourite exit. Because they're all inevitable that they're going to go. I suppose Wan-Bissaka going, actually. Because I like Wan-Bissaka, but he's never going to be our first choice right back. And if he goes, we have to bring a right back in. And does that lead to what I was talking about before, Frimpong? Because that's a way of looking at it as well. Players that go that would lead... Look, I'd love Maguire and Lindelof to go because that would mean we'll buy 2 centre-backs as well. If Casemiro goes, we're buying a midfielder. So, you know, maybe that's the way to look at it. I think Lindelof has to go. He was never really good enough, doesn't really get talked about enough. I would like to see, but can't see it happening, says Alex Roach. Keeping Amrabat is a must for only 15 million, says Sanel. Thank you very much for that as well. Do you think some people are demanding too much from Ineos, says Harry? Let's be honest, not many clubs have done any business. I think we should just wait till July, then it kicks off. Oh, 100%, Harry. 100%. And I've been, as I said to you yesterday, I've been in this position before where I'm, you know, very demanding of why we're not doing business, etc. But you're right. Nobody else is doing anything at the moment. Man City haven't bought anyone. Arsenal haven't bought anyone. Liverpool haven't bought anyone. So, you know, we're not in a bad situation. Patience. We've got a lot further to go than Arsenal, Man City and Liverpool, though. So you can't just say, well, they've not done anything. We're trying to play catch up. But as I said, I think the big week's next week. What I don't want to see, and I've got no control on it, and I've said it before, I do not want to see Donny van der Beek, Jadon Sancho, and a few others walking into Carrington smiling with the boots under their arm. I think that's just such a bad PR thing, to be bringing players back on the opening day that really shouldn't be part of the future. It's not the message we want to send. But you are restricted in football, and players have a lot of power. So, and they're on good contracts. So Man United might have said, Donny, we want to sell you, and he's gone, I'm on 140 grand a week. Find me a club. Otherwise, I'll see you in Carrington. Or you're going to ban me, you know, which you can't do. So, you know, realism is important. And it will be frustrating, and it will be difficult, definitely. You do scout on tournaments, you don't sign because of it, says Harper. Good point. On a transfer concern, what a shock, says Douglas. And England will lose tonight, says Gohan. England have already qualified, mate. So even if we lose, we go through. Yeah, just as a reminder of that, Euros tonight, Euros tomorrow, so we're still doing 7 o'clock shows. Thursday and Friday, there's no game, so we'll bring it back to 8 o'clock. Still got the 2 o'clock show for you today because there's no 2 o'clock games. And the evening show tonight, I don't know because I'm watching Austria, Ranjik ball against the Netherlands at 5. I'm in the Goldbridge Arms. Then I'm coming back here to do England. I don't know whether there'll be an opportunity to do United Stand between those two, or whether I'll do it just a bit later tonight, maybe like 10:30 or something like that, which I did on the last England game. But there will be an evening show. Just get yourself over to That's Football for a start for the England game. Donny, loan him for half his wages and get him out, says Daniel. And people who are passionate doesn't automatically make them basement dwellers, says Luke. Okay, he's having an argument with someone. Sancho's a bad influence on Rashford, says Eric. I don't think you can blame Sancho for anything to do with Rashford, can you? We're playing for the ineptness of the past. Sorry, Chris says we're paying for the ineptitude of the past. Every offer is laughably low and everyone expects us to pay over the top. Chris makes a great point in a bigger way as well. Manchester United are paying for the mistakes of the past in more ways than one because... Look at Donny van der Beek. Look at Jadon Sancho. Look at Victor Lindelof. Look at Christian Eriksen. Look at Aaron Wan-Bissaka. These are all players that you might want to move on, but they've all got contracts and they're all on over 100 grand a week. So no club is going to pay that wage. How do you get them out? And that's not Ineos's fault because they never handed the contract. It's really like taking over a restaurant and all the reviews are bad, but you started after the reviews came in. You're going to have to deal with those bad reviews and reputation for a period of time where people go on TripAdvisor to come to your restaurant and they're reading the reviews and they're bad, but they're not getting the context of new ownership, and over time those reviews will get better. And we are held down by the past. There was never going to be a reset button that was going to clear everything out completely because contracts are contracts for a reason and wages are part of those contracts, and it makes it very, very difficult. And look, who's to say we won't have to keep some of these players and they walk out the door for nothing? And that's a conversation in itself. How many players have walked out the door for nothing for Manchester United over the last few years that had a value? I can think of 3. David De Gea was 31 when he left the club on a free. Incredible. He just won the Golden Glove. Even the biggest hater would say that De Gea was worth at least 20 million. Like, he's 31. That's like being 25 for an outfield player. He's just won the Golden Glove with Man United. He's worth 20 million. He walks out the door for nothing. Varane walks out the door for nothing. He's got a value of at least 10. Like, at least 10 million pounds. Goes for nothing. Jesse Lingard walks out the door for nothing. Again, at least 15 million. Ander Herrera a few years ago, probably at that point, 20 million. So, you know, a club that moans about FFP and PSR, and we've just raised 60 million in players that have walked out the door for nothing because we give stupid contracts and we can't sell players. It's not that these players aren't wanted. It's not that somebody doesn't want Donny van der Beek for 5 million. It's just they can't afford to pay his wages because we've put them on stupid wages in the first place, and it's a problem. How long has Donny got left on his contract, says Goldio? I think he's got 1 year. And Radders says, if you were manager and we got to the final, what would be your Euros final lineup? Well, for England, hopefully Luke Shaw would be fit by then. Luke Shaw, Walker, Stones, Guehi, Pickford, Rice, Bellingham, Foden, Gordon, Kane, Saka. But he's picking Conor Gallagher tonight, isn't he? He's a prat. He's an absolute prat. Absolute prat. Anyway, legends, thanks everyone for tuning in. Really enjoyed that show this morning. So much in there as well. As I said, the Branthwaite one's quite interesting. The Zirkzee thing I don't actually agree with. I don't think he's staying at Bologna. But thanks everyone this morning. Absolute legends. Don't forget we are back at 2. And don't forget tonight we've got Ranjik ball at 5. And then we've got Southgate ball at 8. On That's Football with me. I'll be having a few beers because it's England as well. Take care. Stefan says it's all Woodward and friends' fault that we are in this mess. Enjoyed the show. Thanks for everything. Thanks, Stefan. Thanks to all of you. Make sure you subscribe, smash a like, and I'll speak to you all a bit later.